What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Kajagoogoo. We're going back to White Feathers, 1983, and the next tune is Lies and Promises. It's a phrase that feels in one respect like it's two ends of the same spectrum, with, a lie meaning deceit and misleading someone, and on the other end, a promise that implicitly is meant to be fulfilled or kept. But I feel like there's another matrix or index here such that there are often times when people promise something that they genuinely mean to fulfill and keep, but ultimately factors, whether internal or external, probably some combination thereof, they impose such that the person is not able to fulfill the promise that they made, and perhaps even the situation itself, the dynamics of them alter such that the promise initially made would not be made in the later dynamic, but is still being held as a promise in perpetuity, and thus, again, complicating things psycho-emotionally. Either way, I would expect this to relate to emotions, romance, and relationships, I should say, so that would be my expectation. But again, I think it's often the case that a promise could be given, like, oh, I only have eyes for you, I only want to be with you, and then maybe down the line, the dynamic of the relationship is different, and the person ends up cheating, and then it's like, well, you said, it's like, okay, well, maybe they meant that at the time, but in later situations or circumstances, perhaps they would not have offered the promise in the first place. So yeah, it's an interesting dynamic when I started thinking, it's like, well, they're not perfectly opposite, because again, you could say one that turns into the other, but was not issued with that in mind. So let's see what Kajagoogoo has to say about it, or what I can pick up on a first listen. This is Lies and Promises by Kajagoogoo from the 1983 album White Feathers. Ooh, the bass.
Take a walk to a quieter place and think of the things you said would wait. I can see unconsciously you promised me, you promised me. You come out here to throw a ploy with silly lines, with silly toys, little things for little minds. Amuse yourself in your spare time.
So much going on. Certain bass skipping like a stone.
Your promises, are your lies as good as your promises? Your promises, your promises, are your lies as good as your promises?
This is a funny question.
Cause I believe in what you say. I have to be so led astray that I will play the lover's fool by loving you, by loving you.
I like that tune a lot.
Your promises, are your lies as good as your promises? Your promises, your promises, are your lies as good as your promises? Your promises, your promises, are your lies as good as your promises? Your promises, your promises, are your lies as good as your promises? Your promises, your promises, are your lies as good as your promises?
Everything.
Your promises, are your lies as good as your promises? Your promises, your promises, are your lies as good as your promises? Your promises, your promises, are
It was literally like, it was either going to go, quick fade though, it was either going to go another measure or into an interlude, or fade. Nevertheless, crazy tune. You know, I just did a reaction to Thomas Dolby, and I was talking about, you know, as I've gone through his tunes, there's this eclectic and hard to predict usage of percussion and different instrumental elements. And this tune, a different feel, don't get me wrong, but there was really kinetic and frenetic, and there were, you know, percussion bits and drums bouncing around everywhere, and the synths were, you know, sort of evolving and layering over each other. Even by the end, the vocals were sort of layered. So it was a very dynamic and energetic tune. Lots going on. And then, yeah, Lies and Promises, it did sound like they were being distinct. Like, if, you know, are your lies as good as your promises? It's like, fundamentally, it's not saying they're the same thing. It's actually, like, clearly making a distinction between them. So, you know, in a way, indirectly hitting on the point that I was making, that, you know, you could issue a promise that becomes untrue at some point in the future, but maybe was issued with genuine intent. But yeah, again, like the idea of you don't want to make a fool of yourself by loving this other person, it sounds like there was a promise that was not kept, and perhaps one that was betrayed, whether or not the person issuing it in the first place genuinely meant it. At some point, whatever the content of the promise was broken, and it sounds like the person is now resolving not to fall, not just for that person, but for a person like that. So anyone who's sort of issuing those kind of promises, like, whoop, no, I'm not going to be a fool for that again. So, not sure of the details, excuse me, but that seemed to be the essence. In any case, from a very sleepy and croissant-style Luca and I, let me know what you think of this one. Shout out to Han Solo again for sharing the Kajagoogoo, and we will see you next time. Peace.